Hey guys, welcome to Heart to Talk, the podcast. I am the host and creator, Teresa Caesar. My intention for this podcast is to deliver to you wisdom, inspiration, and consciousness through solo episodes and conversations amongst insightful people. It is my greatest honor to bring to you talks that come from the heart. Welcome, amazing listeners. Today we have the honor of speaking with Lilly Darling, the CEO of Anchorwave, a renowned digital marketing agency. She is a powerhouse in the world of digital marketing, a leader with a vision and a true advocate for collaboration and positivity. Lilly is a multifaceted individual embodying strength, determination, and a profound belief in the power of duality. In this episode, we'll dive into her story and discuss the wisdom and insights she has to offer us both personal and professionally. Get ready to be inspired and motivated as we welcome the remarkable Lilly Darling to the show.
Wow. If you could just get an intro to every time you stepped in a room, I want to do an intro for you now. I am just so excited to be here and be able to just share time with you, because I think we could have a million conversations, and I'm excited to have this one. Behind that intro is a lot of years. So yay for a lot of years and a lot of different experiences. I'm grateful for all that. So I did grow up in Alaska, and then I came to Tucson. So I like to say it was a 180-degree turn, because truly that makes sense for our temperatures and also just the extreme contrast in life growing up there. But coming to the U of A was really the reason for that change. I was half an artist and half had this business mind, was very much interested in the art side and also in commerce. So chose marketing and design as my degree path, which led me to a number of different agency positions. Mostly back in that day, it was logos, business cards, print design. But as time went on, the internet was born, took over, started to grow. And that became one of the central places that people really started to think about when they thought about branding or marketing or business or design. And so 14 years ago, I began at Anchorwave and started as a project coordinator, which means that I would help clients from the beginning to the launch of their websites, and grew and grew and grew in that role and in exposure to all the different facets of marketing through different experiences, 5 different positions at the company. Ultimately, 4 years ago, the owners decided to start a new business. They still own the company, but handed the baton of CEO to me. That was also 2020. And I don't know if you remember what happened then, but there was a lot of changes. And so the full team went remote. So I took on that role of being CEO as well as leading the team into this remote, digitally connected, as we like to call it, workspace. So we've got a team of 20 individuals, all different styles and all different types of talents and skills.
Thank you for walking us through that. And did you ever imagine at the beginning of this journey that you would become CEO? I mean, because how many people want to flex that title? Like CEO, I mean, that's incredible. Such an accomplishment.
Thank you. You know, it's funny when it strikes you in different times and places. I will say, as my kids have reflected it to me, oh, CEO, it sounds different than in different times whenever I'm introduced, because it feels so kind of organic now. There's a tiny part of me that I think it feels so much at home in my core that maybe I did dream of it, but never said that or actually articulated the thought at the forefront. I had owned a branding firm before that. And when you own a business, it's all on you to do all the things, right? So when I very first started at Anchorwave, I thought, this is great. I can go and do my 9 to 5 and I don't even have to have my email on my phone. I go in, I do my thing, and then I'm done. But it grew and grew. And I think that's probably just an innate part of me. I'm always thinking, innovating, creating, want to expand and want to grow. So it seems like a very natural progression to be able to then touch all kinds of different areas of the business and be able to work with these amazing humans in a leading and a coaching capacity, as well as influence the results for our clients.
Let's pivot. Okay. So for both professional and personal, you say that your current season has given you the opportunity to curate your life. You say that your superpower in progress is duality. Tell us about this.
Well, the duality piece has been a theme. And this is where I kind of hearken back to both the extreme change from Alaska to Arizona, right? You got these 2 different sides. And then I've got this artistic side and business side. And I'll tell you, at the U of A, if you go from the Eller School of Business over to the design college, like it's night and day. There's just two different worlds. So I always kind of felt like I was being forced to like choose the one path, right? And what is your final decision? And it was always feeling like they were in combat with one another. Choose one, choose the other, right? If you choose option A, you're going to lose out on option B. And so many times in life, you're not actually choosing one or the other. Actually, you have the choice to have both of those happen at the same time. So whether it's a point of choice or whether that's just the reality, there can be two things that are true at the same time. So I have a couple examples of that. And it goes back to the intro of that question, which is this recent season of life has had so much change. And I do use the term identity a lot because I think we're always developing that and our identity is always changing. And I know the reason I love you because you talk about what do you want to attract? What is your energy bringing you to next? Well, how do you want to change and grow your identity? What do you want to be reflecting out to the world? And so thinking about that fact that we've got a choice to bring and curate. It's kind of like it's the artistic side. If I was to have my life be a museum, what would I want on the wall? What beautiful piece do I want people to see when they enter in, right? What kind of experience would I want someone to have? What kind of experience do I want to have in that back room of my mind? So thinking about like, we really have choices in how we put things into our lives. And sometimes they take a lot of work to put them into our lives. Sometimes we have to extract things out, of our lives that are not bringing peace. And so in my own personal life, there's been significant, shifts, some of which have been really positive in growth and some of which changes in relationship and intimate relationships that you felt had so much of your identity pinned to it. And then needing to reinvent in a way, who am I and what is my identity? So that has given me the ability to kind of take back that power and say, I'm making choices to curate what I have in my life. And also, sometimes you don't have control over every single thing, and you need to find a way to not just resist. So two that come to mind, being strong and being vulnerable. I think sometimes when tough seasons happen in our lives, you can make a choice to be strong and power through and just get what you want. That's one choice. And it can feel invigorating, but you find that you kind of tighten up. And even as I'm saying this, I'm like, shrinking my shoulders and tightening my fists. Cause like to be strong, you have to almost contract and just muscle your way through. But oftentimes the thing that's going to help you grow and expand is by having some vulnerability, opening up, releasing, saying, this actually hurts. I'm feeling a little bit raw right now, but that is being strong. So whenever I say it, I kind of put both of my hands out. I can be strong, hold that in one hand. I'm feeling strong. I'm going to hold strong to my boundaries, or I'm going to make a strong decision. And in the other hand, here I have this vulnerability of I'm still going to feel the feelings. I'm still going to maybe even allow someone to see me being weak or not fully like excited in that moment. I'm feeling just more vulnerable. So both of those things are actually happening concurrently, but allowing both of those things to happen at the same time is the thing that, brings about the next stage of life, brings about that greater amount of peace. And it's the kind of life that I want to live. So it is curating that experience. I find it everywhere. And whether you think of it or not, you're trying to always do this balancing kind of act, but sometimes it's deciding that there's only one thing that can be present. Two things that are oftentimes very different can be very true at the same time. You can't actually be happy and sad simultaneously. And so not feeling like you are, like it's too much of a contrast or that you're being inauthentic or lying to yourself. Like those things are just big and you can hold them in and have that space for both of those at the same time.
I love that. I could personally relate where I've been embracing duality as well as a power because I tend to, and many people, right? Like I've got to push through. I cannot show that I'm upset, but it's been such a game changer in my personal journey to honor my real feelings. Because if you don't, it'll come up somewhere. So tell us about how you educate and coach others.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's one of my favorite things. And I think not only just myself, but I think it was handed down. Anchorwave is a very educational based company. And in fact, the company that was started 4 years by the owners as an addition to that is a coaching company. So we coach agencies across the world to do what Anchorwave does. So not only that, but I think one of the leading things that we do with our clients is to reduce the jargon. Marketing is a very jargon heavy, tech is very jargon heavy. people can use that to their advantage to sound smart or to make someone else feel dumb, which is worse, in my opinion. And so we really took the stance of we want to reduce the amount of jargon, bring things down to their base elements, and be able to explain them, because I truly believe when business leaders are empowered to understand what their options are, they make better decisions for themselves. And then ultimately they grow and they're more successful, right? And that's the same thing with leading a team, is that if I want to grow into my next level of influence and next professional career or new expansive things that I'm doing, there's going to be some things that I'm doing right now that I need to let go of, right? So I'm always like looking at, what do I need to hand off? What do I need to say no to? Or what do I need to teach someone else to do that I've already mastered, but they're stepping into, right? So education as a way of constantly growing myself to reach for the next level, but also saying, what are the things that someone else could step into? And there's a balance of really being aware of where people are raising their hands. We just kind of use that phrase a lot. Where am I seeing that this person is raising their hand to do something? Or where do they light up? What do they really thrive in doing? And values are a part of that. Their own personal work style are a part of that. But you can start to pick up, where are they raising their hand? Where are they lighting up? And how can I give them that educational opportunity to learn the skill that's around that? And more lately, I think people will show you when they're really in the zone. You can just kind of tell. And I think if you're brave enough to say, maybe I don't have a role for that right now, but we can start to give experience and exposure to that type of work. And then all of that collectively can create a role or create the next level in their career opportunity too. So
I love it so much. All right. So I learned that you spent some time is in Goshen, Uganda. What an adventure. Tell us about it and the inspiration behind it.
Yes. So I like to say I've got my daughter who's 20 and my son who is 17, and then I have 65 other kids.
Oh, I love that.
And they've grown in number. Originally, about 14, 15 years ago, I came in contact with this organization. And at that time, there were a handful of kids in Burundi. So Burundi is actually a very small country near Congo. And these kids did not have the fortunate life circumstance of having caretakers, having parents. There was a lot of strife in the area at that time, an attack on a UN camp that had happened. And that area of the world has a number of challenges. We'll just call it that. Actually, the funny thing about the story is that prior to being exposed to that group and that organization, I had created a fundraiser to raise money using art, again, bumper stickers, to kind of sell these different bumper stickers to kind of increase your impact and be able to communicate a message. So I created the fundraiser first and then met the group. And so when we met, it was like, oh my gosh, this is just like such a match. And so made my first trip to Africa at that point in time, just to kind of do more of like a scouting. I also was really into photography at the time as well. So kind of do a scout, make sure it was legit, take photos, and just 1,000% fell in love. And it was, I don't know, one of the experiences in my life where you just know beyond knowing that that was meant to be, that was a purpose of almost my life to have met these kids. So fast forward, my gosh, there's probably like 12 documentaries and a lot of episodes of things that have happened in that timeline. But those kids that originally met are now nearly 20 years old. I've been able to travel with my daughter twice. She's the real photographer now. So she facilitates a lot of that work in videography, and just grow with these kids and see their lives change and see the educational opportunities expand. And now kind of being at this young adult phase, which is a beautiful time and confusing time, but like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And you have your whole life ahead of you. Not without a lot of duality, I will say, a lot of heartbreak and a lot of beauty coming out of that, a lot of resilience despite some like impossible, daunting situations. But I will say navigating that and going along with the changes and being there to just provide a light, show them that somebody sees them, has been the biggest gift in my life. And I will say, I have received 1,000 times more than I have ever really been able to contribute. So I just go and bring bubbles and play soccer. And that in and of itself, it feels like a simple contribution. But I think what they've been able to give back to us and demonstrate in terms of real perseverance and love is, I could talk about that forever.
Yeah, it sounds so inspiring and brave. It's pretty courageous.
It initially, I will tell you, gosh, I still remember being in the Uber on the way to the airport the very first time, because I had up in a very conservative Baptist church. And I remember them talking about missionaries going to Africa who would send their, this sounds crazy now. Man, I don't know, saying it out loud, send their coffin with them on trips, because not because of fear of people necessarily, but of just life there and mosquitoes or anything else that could come against you. So I did have that kind of in the very historical, corners of my mind. And so it felt brave at that point, but there's chaos everywhere. And if you're going to live your life that way, thinking about that there could be detriment, you're going to shrink your possibilities. And there's stuff that happens on our street corners here. So for me, I wasn't looking at it as a dangerous thing any more than driving on the freeway. I just kind of had that mindset of like, there can be things that are scary anywhere you go, and the good outweighs the bad. And I'm going to choose to look at the good and not let the fear kind of overwhelm the opportunity. It's still there. That's another thing you got to hold in duality is sometimes you're scared and you do it anyway. So it was the scary was, has been there in times, but the light just absolutely overwhelms the dark.
I love that you mentioned that, because talk about duality. For me, that's been the theme. I feel like I'm in the chapter of I'm scared and I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's the truth behind anything amazing. It's when you're willing to just be one of the brave ones. Right. And I think a lot of people, glorify, glamorize the other side of anything you want to create, do, or be. But underneath it, truth be told, to make impact on yourself and others.
It breaks down into just like even your own physical response, like just like getting up on stage or doing a podcast. I'm sure for the first couple of times your stomach is tight, or you feel like you might throw up, or your hands are sweating, and like to go through that physical part, not only the mental part of like, what if I fail and what if I suck? There's all that. You have to have a toughness to get through those. It does get easier, but you have to be willing to suck at first. You have to be willing to like get bad feedback at first, or whatever it feels like. You're not going to ever do anything new and feel like you're an expert at the beginning. So you have to have that toughness of, I'm going to get through being uncomfortable. And then hopefully it gets a little easier and a little easier. And your tummy is not quite so tight in knots, but having it there and just realizing that's not a sign to stop. It's just I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to get through this, and then I'll get to that next level.
Absolutely love that. You are known for your commitment to collaboration and authentic. I love the word authentic positivity. And I like your phrase. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I'm going to fix that part. Yeah. Tell us about the impact on ourselves and the world when we move in that mindset.
The willingness to see another person as a unique individual who's had their own collection of experiences, who's made them what they are, or their choices ultimately like bring them to where they are. And there are so many good things about that I guess I've just had the experience of knowing that they hold a piece of the answer. I can't possibly have the entire answer. And if I think I let my ego say that I've got everything, I'm going to miss out, because I know that the people around me have a part of the answer, have a piece of the puzzle. And so that gives me the interest to allow space for that piece of the puzzle to come forward. And I've had the experience of over and over seeing that when you hear all of those different pieces and then you land on an answer, or then you land on a strategy, or then you land on a product, or whatever it is that you're building, you are going to create something that's more stable, that is more robust, that's been thought about in a number of different ways, rather than if I just started the solution myself and thought, oh, I can see it, I know exactly what we're going to do here, I'm just going to go. It might actually be faster. Like I might be able to like write it out or put it out to the market quickly, but then I'm going to learn those lessons later on down the track, and it's going to take me more time to recover. So getting that collective input, allowing people to be who they are authentically, and holding space to hear that, and then taking a little bit more time up front. There's some time investment in sitting down and having a meeting and brainstorming, and allowing that space for that authentic information, those pieces of the puzzle to come forward. A lot of business owners are fast. They talk fast. I tend to talk a little fast. They want to go fast. They want the solution now. The clock is running, and I get that. And so it's hard for us to slow down a little bit and say, we need this space at the beginning. We need to allow these different pieces to come forward. We need to allow the time to understand, the value of this person's authentic perspective that they're going to bring to the table. And I'm willing, even though it's very different, to listen to it, and allow space for that. And then I think once you have a few of those experiences, you recognize that was worth it. It was worth it to slow down in the beginning, to go farther and more stable and without as much pain, once things actually do get moving. So that's why I love that quote. When we were in the office, we plastered all of our inspirational quotes on the bathroom wall. So the bathroom became this little oasis refuge, but that one was front and center and has always been my favorite and has proven itself time and time again, in teams and in the company and even in friendships, and in relationships with other people. If you only rely on yourself, sure, you might be able to make a quick decision, but it's not going to have the cool, input and context of doing that relationship together and then going to the next action or step together.
I love that. I'm going to now dive into the closing traditional questions. So the first one, what is your favorite book?
So my favorite book, and I talked about all the Brene Brown inputs, and I listen to podcasts, and Dare to Lead, I think, has been the most transformational for me personally, and then also in the company. From first reading it and then recommending it to our directors and leadership, and now it's on our kind of required reading list, because it really does bring together so much of that research. We've had people, like I mentioned, we've got engineering minded people and programming minded. What I love about Brene and that book in particular, you have the research and the quantitative data, but then you bring in this qualitative component of it that feels very human too. So the merge of like both sides of your brain, again, the duality of like your left and your right coming together and being like, this is a great way to embrace both of those. So Dare to Lead is the short answer, and that's been very transformational.
I love it. I'm adding it to my list. I'm excited to read that. All right. And the final question, do you have a favorite affirmation or mantra you use to stay empowered?
I am capable. And so I think it speaks to like, no matter what happens, I've got the resources and what I need to be able to respond to whatever kind of comes my way. So there is work in terms of being able to feel that that's true, in terms of I'm capable, whatever comes my way, I've got the resources and what I need, or I can ask for them to be able to respond. And I believe, feels a little bit more of like that energetic kind of component. I do believe in my bones, the best will come out of this. And if it's tough, there's going to be a lesson. And if there's good, then I can soak in that and enjoy it. So those are my go-to. I am capable. And I believe, on a daily basis.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Please download, rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. Also, be sure to visit my website at teresacaesar.com to check out my inspirational merch, connect to my social accounts, and much more. May you continue to be filled with wisdom, inspiration, and consciousness. Otherwise, friends, I will be back in 2 weeks for another episode of Heart to Talk.